music. One of the most universally loved things in the world alongside its artists, and music artists have been known for quite some time to have their claws in other industries, businesses, really just anything that makes a lot of money. But one thing a lot of people don't talk about is how many musicians have fully produced a video game. From Michael Jackson to Journey and WuTang Clan, there's just so many weird titles out there from a lot of our favorite bands. But that doesn't mean that any of these are any good, so I figured we should do a little deep dive on these games here, going through some of the good and the bad. And just a little disclaimer, there are a ton of games with soundtracks made by bands and artists, but this game has to be specifically made by the artist and or feature them in some way. And also, by extension, any game that's literally just you playing their song or dancing to it like Dance Dance Revolution or say Guitar Hero would be way too easy to include, so none of them are going to be on here, and these are just going to be normal-ish games featuring bands. But with that out of the way, let's start our list. 50 Cent Blood on the Sand. The sole inspiration for this video, and what a banger to start us off with. This is the most amazing but also horrible game I've ever played, and no matter how much I think about it, I just can't decide if I love it or hate it. There's just so much going on here, and there's a ton to unpack, so I guess we'll start off with the obvious. 50 Cent is in a video game, and not only just a character, but also an immortal, unkillable badass. Why he did this is so baffling, and it's just insane. I mean, he takes every single opportunity available to make himself look as cool as possible, and it's just so goofy. These one-liners are so fucking funny because absolutely none of them land whatsoever.
If I don't get that skull, I'm gonna collect from you personally. With interest, you understand?
He also looks absolutely fucking juiced here, and he looks nothing like this in real life in the slightest. Like, 50 was built back in the day, but that just seems like some insecurity if I've ever seen it. Now, let's hop into our story here, and because I had to watch all of this shit, you do too. 50 Cent's doing a tour in like Iraq or something, and we get one of the most awkward mic drops I have ever seen. And we have this weird move transition, and contrary to what this shit looks like, this is in a completely separate location and not just like in the back of the stadium. 50 Cent demands his money with this big ass shotgun, and we get introduced to the entire game's objective, which is this crystal skull, which is labeled at 10 million and then immediately referred to as priceless. So which is it? 50's convoy gets hit with RPGs, and there's a lot of shooting and big sounds, but more importantly, the crystal skull gets stolen, and the objective through the entire game is to just get it back. And after that, we're on to the gameplay, and I have no idea how to break this down. This is like a really weird, watered down combination of every single third-person shooter at the time. The roles and movement around corners is sort of reminiscent of the old Gears of War games, but the partner interactions to progress is kind of reminiscent of The Last of Us, and everything else is just kind of a generic combination of, say, Call of Duty or any other big FPS at the time. Our choosable partner is a part of 50's GUnit, and let's see who we got to pick from here. We got Tony Yayo, Lloyd Banks, and DJ WuKid. The guns here feel so weird, and this was made in that weird era where people thought that the shoot button and the ADS button should be the shoulder buttons for whatever reason. We have 4 weapon slots though, one for each class of weapons. We have pistols, all of which having unlimited ammo, an automatic gun slot which has assault rifles, LMGs, all that good stuff, a shotgun slot, and an explosive slot. All of these have their uses, and to the game's credit, swapping weapons feels pretty fluid, and getting a new one is always pretty exciting. But when you're not in combat, the game just feels so confused. The game wants to do this whole scheming plot where we need to trust no one and doubt everything, but the problem is that 90% of these conversations occur over a headset with minimal face-to-face contact. Like the character Anwar, who talks to us through the whole damn game, basically appears in like maybe 4 cutscenes tops. And when you're not going through the whole trust versus mistrust shit, the game puts so many cringe lines into one game, it's almost impressive.
Where's your boss, bitch?
There are these blatant song references, and there's a ton of lines that just don't cut at the proper time, making this super awkward delivery.
Trust no one.
This guy's named Raul, and he's our weapons dealer, who we purchase weapons, taunts, and executions from with the acquired currency in the game, meaning that there's actually a level of freedom with the way that you approach each and every encounter. But I kinda hate to say it, with all these interesting ideas, it's objectively kind of ass if you go into this expecting a relatively complete game, but hear me out. This is not how you're supposed to enjoy the game. This game's kinda like the Michael Bay of video games in a sense, where it's way more fun if you just kinda turn your brain off for a while. I mean, think about it. This is a video game where you get to play as 50 Cent with all of his songs, which by the way is great. You just get to bump some tracks, kill some bad guys, and drop some one-liners, and just be a general badass. Playing it like that is actually kind of fun, and I think it's definitely how it was intended to be played. And while somewhat mediocre at times, it's at least sort of passable, and I put myself through all of this. That's right, I finished this game. But this game is so unbelievably fast-paced, I had to play this in like 30-minute increments and take breaks all the time. But how does the game progress? It's basically the exact same thing, and the combat never really changes. There is a 0% chance that there is any single person willing to send send 10,000 troops and hundreds of millions of dollars in military equipment just to kill 50 Cent? But I mean, I guess let's finish out the story here, shall we? 50 takes on the big gangster head-ons and finds the woman that he stole the skull from earlier and just decides to trust her for reasons, I don't know. But more importantly, we go on a giant rampage. This dude's military base, literally just gunning down anything in sight, and oh no, turns out the guy who we haven't trusted since 2 hours ago betrayed us, and we're being held at gunpoint. And I do in fact want you to notice the specific fact that we have guards holding us at gunpoint, and the second that this cutscene ends, they just despawn. I mean, what the fuck happened there? We kill Anwar, and now it's our final objective to kill the real big gangster and get the skull, and I want you to watch this cutscene with me in its entirety. Notice the fact that 50 has been shot, and first of all, there's no blood, and now 2 guards have trained guns on him, and he manages to crawl and reach for his gun and shoot them both without them taking a single shot. And what the fuck are these VFX? Did the game's entire budget just run out or something? Where did the blood go? This is also where the fact that we have a partner dawned on me, because where the fuck are they in any of these cutscenes? The cutscenes just show 50 getting shot or doing the shooting, but DJ WuKid just despawns and comes back out of nowhere. And the boss fight here is literally the exact same boss fight we have seen 3 other times up to this point. And you know, since this is the main bad guy, he'll have a badass that scene where 50 talks to him and hits him with a one-liner. Nope. This is literally the last we see of him. And the game ends with us getting the skull back and shouting obscenities, driving off into the sunset. And what a wild ride. After playing through this game, I decided to look into the development because, I mean, how the fuck do you make a game like this? And after I did so, a lot of this made sense. This game was essentially a repurposed project from Swordfish Games about a series called Covert 1. And once the project got cancelled, they decided to reuse a ton of assets and animations to quickly make another 50 Cent game, getting him to voice over everything. This really explains all the rushed and unfitting themes, resulting in a very confused game. But you may have picked up on something I said just there. I said another 50 Cent game. There's actually 2 of these. One made 4 years prior on the PS2, but I don't feel like putting myself through that, so I'm just gonna pretend that isn't there and—
Oh shit, here we go again.
Fuck. Alright, fine. I'll talk about it. Well, while Blood on the Sand got some decent reviews, this is one of the lowest scores I have ever seen. Why? Well, this is, clearly on a far lower budget. If there's anything that I've learned over the years, it's that if a game opens up to a live action music video, you have made a horrible choice and the next hour of your life is just gonna be hell. Let's see here. 50 Cent and the GUnit are making their way up to Queens, New York, and a bunch of mass assailants try to kill 50, and we shoot our way through, and wow, this looks like shit. Yeah, everyone, I'm really damn sorry if this is disorienting to watch at certain points, but this game is so poorly designed, it's hard for me to even understand what the hell is happening, but I'll do my best to explain it. So we're just blasting through enemies, and oh look, I can pick up their guns or dual wield. That's pretty sick, and what the fuck, look at these names. We have guns called Nines, Gats, and Busters. That's actually fucking awesome. Naming guns after slang terms for them is actually a really cool detail I wish way more games would go for, as opposed to just naming them by their boring ass full names. And what the hell? What is that? Alright, we're getting a call from someone. Alright, let me just answer that in the middle of a firefight.
Counter kills allow you to take a person's weapon and use it against them. That's why you need different techniques based on what type of weapon they're carrying.
Okay, thanks, Popcorn? The fuck kind of name is that? Okay, let's just get back into it, and Jesus Christ, another call. Let's see who it is this time.
Your back is unprotected when grabbing a hostage, so don't do it if guys are shooting.
Yeah, Popcorn is an annoying ass clown who just spam calls you here giving advice on things you've probably already figured out. Best part is there's no dodging it either. You just have to wait the phone call out. Also, this is on some real nerd shit, but I have to bring up the voice acting here. This is wildly inconsistent, and you can clearly tell when they switch microphones here. It's funny as fuck.
It was just another night when I got an urgent page from K-Dog, a major crack hustler I knew since juvie. Dog, it's me, what's up?
The story of this game starts to pick up when 50 gets brutally shot 9 times on a roof, and remember, cutscene bullets are very different from in-game ones. 50 basically almost dies until he wakes up being saved by Doc Friday, and holy shit, look at 50's eyes, he developed glaucoma in the past 20 seconds, holy shit. The game also tries these really weird transitions and hallucinations and things, but they barely work, and oh, look who it is everyone, it's Eminem, who plays a cop, but this doesn't look like him at all. And no, another guest appearance with our gun dealer. Dr. Dre? I guess that looks passable. I mean, compare this to his more recent GTA appearance, I mean, this looks retro as hell. Even 50 barely looks like himself. I mean, this is 40 Cent right here, man. There's something missing. Yeah, there is an absolute zero chance I am finishing this game. This is so painful to control. I refuse to even bother with it. But you know what's fucking wild? The fact that this game had nearly double the sales of Blood on the Sand. That is absolutely insane considering the quality difference here. Overall, the 50 Cent games are such a weird little world where the quality jumps up and down constantly and nobody ever really had a real vision for. I hope someday we can get another one of these just to see where the series goes, but you know what? It's time we move on to a non-50 Cent title. Alright, hey everybody, Dagger here in post, and it turns out this entire section of the video is completely scuffed, and for one reason. There is some sort of privacy or prevention thing in the actual BTS World app that prevents you from taking screenshots or recording anything relating to it. Now there are questionably legal ways to get around this, but I'm not really in the mood to catch a lawsuit, so I'm just gonna kind of cut that out. Honestly, you the viewer aren't really missing out on a whole lot. It's just a very uncomfortable dialogue simulator with just a copious amount of fanfiction in there, but unfortunately my video runtime here is gonna take a bit of a hit as I'm basically cutting out like my entire fully scripted and voiced stuff here. I've linked a playthrough that I found on YouTube to this, and if you really want to see what this is like, you know, do it at your own risk. Causes lethal amounts of brain damage, but we're not going to be having any of that here apparently. So yeah, that's about it. On to the next game. You know shit's getting good when I bring out a platforming game, buddy. Now, I know this is some serious old shit, and there's probably a large portion of you who have never even heard of the Blues Brothers, so here's a quick-ass breakdown. The Blues Brothers were an 80s blues and soul group made by Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi out of Chicago, and they actually had some pretty damn big songs at the time. But like all of these bands, I got a little greedy and decided to make a fucking video game out of absolutely nowhere. Now, let's start up our game, and damn, this is a weird-ass menu. And this really isn't the game's fault, but the gaming industry as a whole really pisses me off with the changing button inputs from console to console, especially since Xbox and Nintendo A and B are always inverted, causing me to just have a stroke figuring out menu navigation. Again, not the game's fault, but I'm blaming it anyway. We hop into our first level here with Federal fucking Prison, and this game is actually based off of a movie with the same title, which also shouldn't exist, and it essentially just follows the same plot beat for beat. We play as Elle Wood, who's been locked up in prison for unknown reason, and the warden of the prison also wants to keep us here outside of our release date for unknown reasons. Good start. We get introduced to the game's primary objectives pretty damn quick, and it's actually pretty clear. We need to assemble the band in a rush for a music competition, and everyone wants to stop us. We progress through the levels by collecting these golden music notes, which according to the game unlocks a new song which consists of exclusively eighth notes. And with that we're off, and for lack of a better comparison, this is literally Banjo-Kazooie but watered down to the point where it's almost annoying if you've played through those games. The platforming here really isn't even platforming, it's just walking until you find a slightly elevated ledge. The combat works whenever it feels like it, and I swear to god, the game doesn't even understand how doors work. Our bandmate is also locked up in the prison cafeteria, and we gotta save him by progressing and clearing out rooms, and this is scuffed as hell. Our bandmate needs to be freed from the evil lunch lady who wants to use him as a part of her stew, and we get ourselves our first boss fight. And the game's first boss fight is... drumroll please... a fucking matching game with lunch trays. In all seriousness, I have to say this isn't actually that bad at all, and it's kind of fun. But once we free our bandmate, he demands we go and get his guitar. And this is where the game just immediately derails with some doo-doo ass puzzles here, like this fucking side-scrolling gauntlet of dog shit with laser bars that just straight up don't function properly. And this boss fight right after is so bad, it's just a source of brain damage. The game tries to teach you the slide mechanic to knock him over, but it just simply has a 50-50 chance of either working or making me look like a dumbass. But the best part is, after damaging him, he charges you with this grab that you can't counter to my knowledge. And even better, he's faster than you, so it's not like you can run. But after you beat him, you get outside and escape. But to make everything worse, the game forces you to go to Chicago. Overall, I actually kind of enjoyed my time with this game. But did you know that Kiss made a Doom game? Yes, Kiss, the rock band, deadass made a full video game for the Sega Dreamcast. And I did a bunch of digging on this game, and it turns out that this game is actually based on a Kiss comic series, which just the existence of that is a mindfuck. The series follows a Kiss tribute band, which are given superpowers, and that is literally the only Kiss influence in the whole game. This is quite literally a Doom clone in every possible sense, but hilariously they forgot how to make a control scheme, and this is so awful. So our left stick controls the camera, right? But with these goofy ass dead zones, it makes me look like I have Parkinson's or some shit. And you know, a somewhat reasonable person might assume that the camera would be on the right stick and we move with the left stick, but you know what? This game decided, fuck that. Moving up should be done with Y and moving back should be done with A. Yes, that's right. Face buttons are your movement buttons, and your jump command is up on the D-pad. Why? Trying to balance this with the aforementioned weird-ass camera controls makes me absolutely lost on controlling myself here, and once again, my footage is just kinda gonna look like shit at some points. Outside of that though, we do the normal Doom things here, killing, finding keys, locked doors, puzzles, all that sort of stuff, but it's almost too much like Doom to the point where I literally think of this as a Doom clone. There's not even really a whole lot of lore here, and I don't even get the point of this game. There's a line of a game being bad and fun bad, and this game just does not fall under the fun category at all, which is a damn shame because I love and adore the first two Doom games as one of the best fast-paced shooters of all time, and it's just boring when you play something like this in comparison to it. And quick side note, I know the super nauseating controls are borderline non-existent on PC, so that's probably the definitive way to play this game, but I already recorded this on the Dreamcast, so I'm kind of fucked at this point. So if this game really isn't that bad on PC, I'm sorry to have such a biased take on it, but I just can't be fucked to even play this game again. I'm sorry. Hail to the King Deathbat, made by 2000's metalcore band Avenged Sevenfold, and I know I'm immediately gonna get shit for this, but I actually love Avenged Sevenfold, and I consider them to be one of my favorite metal bands, period, which is why this game is so unbelievably painful for me in a lot of ways. For starters, before we get into any gameplay, there is so much lore to unpack here, it's ridiculous. Here's my quick summary for you. There are three gods with beef with each other about the philosophical nature of the world. Two of the gods believe that good always prevails over evil, and the third one believing quite the opposite. And to settle this argument, they created a realm called Hades, and they just let hell break loose for thousands of years just to see the outcome. This is a lot for a $6 game on Steam, man. Holy shit. Our protagonist is a man named Andronikos who fought off evil and proved that good prevails, pissing off a primordial being, resulting in him and the Rev being killed. What? For those of you who don't know, the Rev was the original drummer of the band who tragically died in an opioid overdose, and the band has just intentionally written in their dead drummer into the game to kill him again. That is so dark. The evil god creates a copy of Andronikos who plunges the world into shit, and our main objective here follows the resurrected Andronikos who wants to kill his evil clone and set things straight. And with that, we're into the gameplay. And I'll just keep it real, I know people love dungeon crawlers, but this just isn't for me at all. I'm not really the target audience here, but I persisted through a lot of this game, so what did I think about it? Well, it's okay I suppose, with a few broken ass tactics you can use, like this hit and run style I used through like 90% of the levels. And also, I don't know if this is the case with the whole damn genre, but magic here just seems fucking game breaking. We can shoot a little orb here using some of our refillable mana bar, but it does way more damage than the melee attacks, allowing you to shred through bosses without any thinking. But let's talk about the constant band references this game just shoves down your throat. For starters, literally every single thing in this game that they could get away with is a Deathbat, which, you know what, that's fine enough. What isn't fine is the ridiculous amount of song references. Literally every single goddamn thing in this game is either a lyric, song, or album title, and it is so tiring. Who the hell names a level Unholy Confessions? That's not even clever. Stuff like Nightmare I guess is somewhat fitting, but what about this level as a confession? Please explain. For the game's credit though, it does attempt a level of interesting design with these traps and labyrinths and enemies, especially in the first level. This full castle is actually pretty cool. Once we scale the castle though, we find a dark Andronikos. Oh, already? Seems a little early. And this here is a shit fight. Your edgy alter ego just charges at you and stops to use magic, and these hitboxes are jank as hell. And just like everything else, magic absolutely melts him, and with that we're supposedly getting another lore drop or something. Overall, this game tries way too fucking hard to have an interesting story, and despite having a pretty interesting premise, in my opinion, it just doesn't have the right format for success. Considering the lack of voice acting in the cutscenes, which really just gets rid of any and all immersion, it just struggles to find any sort of deep meaning in the story. So the story doesn't really have much impact, but we still have the gameplay, and that's also super mediocre. Hearing some great tracks and instrumentals is really cool for fans of the band, but that's not enough to carry the game, leaving it with just an okay enough spot in my opinion. Also, hitting escape on accident just closes the entire game. WuTang Shaolin Style. Another just fever dream of a game, this time for the PS1. If you're too young to know who the WuTang Clan is, they were a huge rap supergroup in the 90s with some huge songs. But for some unknown reason, they wanted to make a video game, and this is absolutely fucking cursed. This is a 3D fighting game released a whole 2 years out of Tekken 3, so there's some stiff competition here, and I don't even understand why they made this because sidesteps are just straight up non-existent. The game also tries to do a Soul Calibur and has characters with weapons and shit, but we gotta address these graphics, man. This shit looks so scuffed scuffed, and 90s 3D animation is such a weird thing to look back on. While you can tell what's going on, it's so weirdly unsettling and it's some uncanny valley shit. But let's talk about the fighting. And I really don't talk about this on this channel, but I am a massive Tekken fan and I have a ton of experience with fighting games in general. And I can say with certainty that this might be one of the worst ones I've ever played. Attacks that look like they go under highs just don't. Elbows have more range than the goddamn hammer. The movement feels like it ran over a squirrel. Ducking is done with L2 instead of a normal button like I don't know, down. Inputs are either just done with a button press or with literally any random directional input, meaning that there's a total of like 8 moves per character. And you know the best part? There's not even a move list. Why? But technically there's a story mode, so why not check it out, shall we? We start off amongst a group of evil martial artists who want to conquer the world, but they need to learn another discipline of martial arts called WuTang to do so. So they travel to New York where the WuTang Clan members are chilling until their teacher gets caught, so we gotta go save him. Let's see here, I'll play as Method Man. Oh god, what the hell is this? We have these little mini hub world things to choose our paths, and dude, look at this running animation. He looks like he shit himself. And the rest of this game is just a really repetitive combat simulator trying to save the teacher, and nothing really changes throughout, so I'm not even gonna bother finishing the game because if there's anything that really enrages me, it's a very poorly made fighting game. Iron Maiden Legacy of the Beast. Now, I know a lot of you probably have no idea who Iron Maiden is, unless you're a metalhead that is. Iron Maiden is a classic heavy metal band who peaked in popularity in the 80s and 90s and have some of my favorite album covers out there. Iron Maiden's mascot is Eddie, the skinny skeleton thingy that you see here, and there's a lot of lore for him and shit, but I don't know any of it. But more importantly, he's the main protagonist of the game as he got his soul shattered by, Satan. Okay, the entire objective of the game is to just recover it and oh god, what is this? No, I didn't get a raid sponsorship, although please raid, please. This shit looks like the most generic mobile game these days with turn-based combat, multiple waves, and timers on how quickly we get our energy back, all that sort of shit. So what makes this game unique? Good question. Just like Hail to the King Deathbat, this game is littered with blatant, shameless references to their older works from the antagonist literally just being from their album cover to the world names and also the enemies. Outside of that, it's really just a generic raid-style mobile game with instrumental Iron Maiden riffs and tracks, and it's okay enough. We can get a bunch of clones of Eddie with different power-ups, and just like this guy who just has a fucking Tommy gun, that's awesome. Unfortunately, I can't really spend a whole lot of time in this game. Every single encounter is roughly the same, and to keep it real, the only reason we tolerate these games is if we're on the toilet. But in a setting like this, it's just ass. And also, I don't have the time to wait for my energy to recharge to keep getting footage. Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. Originally out on the Sega Master System, whatever the hell that thing is, but I'll be playing this on the Sega Genesis. Because, I mean, look at the crazy difference in graphics. This game, aged perfectly, and I see no issue whatsoever with Michael Jackson searching for little girls that restores health. Yep. No issue whatsoever. In all seriousness, this little goofy game is a side-scrolling beat-em-up with enemies we take out and dance on, all while listening to the same digitally crushed versions of Michael's hit songs, and I swear to god some of these basslines have been completely ruined for me. Our storyline is that this strange evil man has kidnapped the world's population of children, all of which we free being white girls for whatever reason, and his reasoning for this? To brainwash them and make them his slaves. Is this projecting, Michael? We just go through the levels and kill the enemies, free the kids, and progress. The problem though comes with these controls, and they made me feel like a fucking moron. I shit you not, I could not get up a simple staircase for over an hour. Do I have a concerning amount of head trauma? Potentially. Is that an excuse for me to have a massive issue with getting up a staircase? No. You'd think maybe going up a staircase would use a special button, but that doesn't work. And okay, after some extensive testing, this thing is so damn sensitive with your controller to the point where only one of my 3 Xbox controllers worked with it. Why? Good question, but I can tell you I was ecstatic when I saw myself go up a fucking staircase, and that's a low bar. But as for the combat, Michael has the powers of magic and can either burn his own health bar for a stronger attack or stick with the default ones that get the job done. But in a weirdly cool feature, the lower health you have, the less range and damage you do, which is actually pretty good balance. And after muscling through to level 3, we find the pedophile who pops out and says, "You'll never catch me," which we could very easily do right now. But regardless, it seems we have ourselves a boss fight, and this is, it's definitely a boss fight. This shit is as simple as it looks. The guy jumps around and pulls out that big iron on us every once in a while, which we can just easily duck, and it's a very typical beat 'em up boss. Not really much more to say. But more importantly, we get to stage 2 and we're back in Chicago again. Fuck me. Alright, let's look around here and oh yeah, I sure hate when that happens to me. Just open a window and there's an IED waiting on you. I can't stand that. We have these Dobermans who just turn into weasels when they jump at you, and instead of gangsters, we have the entire San Francisco homeless population. Yeah, I think it's time we wrap this game up, but there's also a game with Michael in it that's technically not his game, but I'm gonna briefly cover it anyway because it's way too goofy not to. This game is called Ready to Rumble 2. This horrible, awful boxing game reminded me way too much of that Spyro 3 boxing match, and if you've reminded me of that, you have made a horrible mistake somewhere along the way. The game doesn't even have the decency to implement boxing fundamentals, which, I mean, for Christ's sake, the fact that you can't do a simple 1-2 just speaks volumes about the game as a whole, I think. But you're not here to listen to me rant about that. You want to see Michael here, who's a playable character alongside Bill Clinton? This game's amazing, actually. I take everything back. Michael hits people with these double spin uppercuts and cool jabs, and there's nothing really more to say. I just kind of wanted to cover it. But I'm getting tired of these games, so I think it's time we wrap this video up. Before we go, I kind of want to talk about the games I couldn't get my hands on, because there's a lot of these that I really wanted to play, but they've either been removed from the store or they're just too damn hard to get your hands on. For starters, I really wanted to play through the Journey video game because this looked unbelievably cursed, but unfortunately I couldn't even get it past the starting screen for some sad reason. Next, I gotta mention the first Iron Maiden game that came out that I couldn't play on account of it crashing every single time you hit start, which, you know, foreshadows great things, which I'm sure I missed out on. And the final game I'm actually kind of pissed about missing out on was Linkin Park 8-Bit Rebellion, which honestly doesn't even look that bad, but it was an iOS game 10 years ago, and for whatever reason, probably licensing, they took it down. I've linked footage to all of these games in the description, so if you're super curious, go take a look at some of these games. But back to finish this out. Thank you so much for watching. I had an absolute blast just discovering these games, and I hope it was equally enjoyable for you. Let me know if you played any of these games as a kid, or if I missed out on a really cool game from your favorite artist. And just about the future of this channel really quickly, I'm kind of in a weird spot right now. I have a couple series that I'm still working on, but I'm considering making a live channel to play through a lot of these games on, you know, because I have to do it anyway, and I might as well just play them with you. So in the next few videos, you might see me start promoting that. I don't know, I'm still undecided. But outside of that, you all know the deal. Any and all support is appreciated, but no one can force it. And with that, I will see you all in the next one, where I'll be looking at yet another divisive game. Alright everyone, take care.